Let us pray for peace, for justice, and for all those who work to establish peace and justice. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Mary, seat of wisdom,
Pray for us.
in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
So this morning we reflect on the teaching of the Church proposing a third way between the pure capitalism and pure communism. You know? Is it possible to take what is good in everyone and eliminate what is bad? So to have something something we can accept. So I invite you, if you have some time, you have the social agenda, Article 4, you have the social order. Article 4, social order. And in the social order, you have 3, subsidiarity, 3, solidarity, and 4, subsidiarity. And participation goes with subsidiarity. Those two paragraphs, 134 to 145, they are very important for the subject this morning. Because here, in solidarity and subsidiarity, you have the elements to build an economy, a way of life that is respecting the human person. But I encourage you also. I know you don't have time to read all the encyclicals. I am a realist. But you have that book, I hope. And you can at least read the summary. For example, Centesimus Annus, that is one of the most important encyclical on social justice, because the Pope, Jean Paul II, gives the teaching of the Church in regard to social justice. So you can go to that book and read 2-3 pages about, so you can have an idea of the teaching about social justice in Centesimus Annus. That is a tool. You should use it now and also in the future. Okay. Now I gave you also some document. You have that. The Root of Catholic Worker Movement, Emmanuel Mounier, Personalism. So you should have that. Maybe I will use that a few times during the class. But anyway, I invite you to read that. To see that even in the United States there was some efforts accomplished by a Christian to attain a system that can respect the human person, respecting the principle of solidarity and subsidiarity. Why subsidiarity and solidarity? What is the characteristic of communism, or the ideal of communism? Is to be together, no? The common good, community. Yeah. Communism insists on communism.
Yes.
You insist on solidarity. Solidarity of the workers. Huh? Capitalism insists on free enterprise. And no intervention of the state and the church. Okay? So if we can keep what is good in communism, that desire for the common good of every person, solidarity, and here freedom, free enterprise, no intervention. No intervention. That is the principle of subsidiarity. That means a superior authority must not take the place of an inferior authority. Suppose you have a parish priest, a pastor in the parish, and you have a choir. It's not you to take the direction of the choir. Give that to another one. If that person does her job or his job very well, sustain him, encourage them, but don't take their place. That is subsidiarity. Subsidiarity means help, in Latin, subsidium, protection, help. Okay? And all that, what is the essential characteristic, I would say, of the third way is the respect of the human person. The human person is the first reality, the centrality of the human person. Now you have here the synthesis of the position of the church. That is a synthesis. Solidarity, subsidiarity, and participation. Because when we speak about subsidiarity, we speak, I would say, about participation. So what is good in capitalism? We should take it subsidiarity. That means the government must not intervene in the business while the business functions well. Respect the laws and make the people participate more and more as a producer, but especially as a consumer. You know. What is the way the people participate in the economy in the United States, in Canada, in France? They are consumers. No? The majority of people, they don't produce. The majority of people, they go to the store and they buy. They consume. The consumer, to consume is important. Is a kind of participation. Participation also in the responsibility. But all that centrality of the respect of the human person. And there is a person who the beginning of the 19th century in France was a precursor, a prophet about social justice, is Frédéric Ozanam. Blessed Frédéric Ozanam. He was beatified by John Paul II. He was married, one child, I think, a daughter, and he was a teacher, a lawyer. So Frédéric Ozanam, he is important. Why? Because he was the first really systematically to propose a doctrine, a social doctrine for the church. 50 years before Leo XIII. Interesting. 50 years before Leo XIII. Leo XIII wrote in 1991. And Ozanam already in the 30s, the 1840, the two revolutions, he was there. He proposed something. The church must not be apart from the social problem. Okay? So I read the text here, I will comment the text. So he is the first Catholic to write systematically in an organized way on social justice. Think about that. You have to go back to France at that time. French Revolution was for the benefit of the bourgeoisie. Remember that, the rich, with the middle class. But the poor was put aside. But one of the desires of many people, among them the church, the churchmen, they wanted to come back to the king. We call that a restoration. And in fact, they restored the king, but he did not stay a long time. U-O-O, en French, restauration. Restaurant. Restaurant. What is a restaurant? It is to restore, to make you in better health, to be able to work. Yeah? So another thing you must know also, very important, the church was divided in two parts. The high church and the low church. So the high church was the bishop, and the bishop were taken from the nobility. You must not forget that. Huh? So who is with the nobility usually? The poor? No, the rich. And the other, the low clergy, the low clergy. Okay? So Frédéric Ozanam is a precursor and a kind of prophet. He's a precursor of a Catholic action. Pope Pius XI wrote an encyclical about Catholic action. But already Ozanam proposed that, he lived that, he organized that a long time before Pius XI, a long time before Leo XIII. That is interesting. The truth can come from the lay people, no? Because at that time, the church the Pope was the king of the state, the pontifical state. And who protected the Pope in his pontifical state? It was the Emperor of Austria. The Emperor of Austria was afraid to have a French Revolution in his country. So he was conservative, and he tried to keep everything unchanged. And all those who have the idea of democracy, they were condemned, or they were expelled, or they have a big problem. Like, for example, Lamennais in France, who wrote about, you open a newspaper, called L'Avenir. L'Avenir. But that newspaper was a paper for democracy. So the Emperor of Austria asked the Pope to find some heresy in his writing. And he found that traducionism. But anyway, that means the situation is, since the French Revolution, the rich and the high church are together. So what is the consequence of that? We lost the working class. We lost the working class, and we lost also the intellectual who were defending the working class. So Frédéric Ozanam is aware of that and is fighting to wake the Catholic, to say, hey, wake up, awake, and take care of that reality, the workers. Okay? So he founded the Society of Saint-Vincent-de-Paul. So that society is around the whole world. It was beatified by John Paul II. By the way, during my studies in Paris, I lived in the same campus where was his tomb. At that time, he was not beatified. No, his tomb was under the chapel where we have the Mass every day. And also in the wall also was all the bones of the priests who were killed during the French Revolution. 92 priests, they were killed. So that it was not, but now he is beatified. If only Ozanam is a great man. A great man. So no, great men are not necessarily those who are powerful in politics. The thing about the influence of that man during 200 years through Saint-Vincent-de-Paul society. Okay? I continue. He was a man of the middle class, little bourgeoisie. He was moderately rich, but he was preoccupied with the poor and the working class. So he was critical of the Catholic Church in France. That, after the revolution, she allied herself with the conservative cause. She incurred the distrust of the working class, and we lost the working class. And this disdain of those intellectuals who embraced the Republic, because the church was for the monarchy, to the return of the king, the restoration. But the intellectual, they say that is finished. Now it is a republic, like the United States, the republic. So you have a new way of living in society. We are not in the Middle Age. We are not at the time of the king. Now we are at the time of democracy and republic. But the intellectuals were for that. But unfortunately, a lot of members of the clergy were on the side of the conservative. You know, it's interesting to see the conservative attract the rich. Because the rich don't want things change. They are afraid. If things change, they will lose their money. They will lose their security. So no, don't change. You know, they were sent to South America by Reagan. He said we have to fight the Catholic Church because the Catholic Church is a favor communism. So the evangelical, what they say to people? Hey, you are poor. Is it the will of God? Hallelujah. So don't change things. No, don't change. Frédéric Ozanam was a prophet, but he has some problem because of that, of course. Some problem. Imagine at that time a layman teaching something the bishop did not teach. It was very audacious, audacious at that time. But today it's different. So his fundamental insight is Christianity is not about ideas, but about deeds inspired by love. Not about ideas. love your neighbor, but about deeds that correspond to the word of the gospel. It's not enough to say, Lord, Lord, Lord. We have to do something. Okay. So he created a society of lay Catholic, lay Catholic, not like a religious community. He created a society for lay people, married people, politicians, businessmen, to form them spiritually and to form them socially also. Not only for prayer, for action. To know the society, to transform the society. And among those people, there was someone who was important, politician, and they tried to influence the change in France at that time. So, the battle of those who have nothing and those who have too much. What do we see today? The having and the having not. Those who possess and those who don't possess. Is that Nihil novi sub soli, nothing new under the sun. You will, she just said in the gospel, you will always have poor among you, no? I can say you will always also have rich among you. Because greed exists. Greed is in our DNA, to possess. We have that when we are a little boy. We want to possess. That is my doll. You don't touch my doll. That is my truck. Don't use my truck. No, I was like that. Yes, and the instinct of possession. And in the gospel is the contrary. It's the opening. Okay. So the battle of the violent collision of opulence and poverty. It was written in 1830 to 1840. And when you go to Brazil, you go to many countries, you see a rich, very rich neighborhood and very poor Islam. The Islam, the very poor people in the same. You go to Philippines, you go to maybe Vietnam, I don't know. But yeah, that is, even in Montreal, you have some suburb, some neighborhoods are very rich, and some neighborhoods are very just on the limit. The limit. So the response of Ozanam is Christian charity. Response for the credibility and integrity of the gospel. He said we cannot be a Catholic, we cannot be a Christian if we don't put into practice what we believe. In fact, his theory is similar to the theory of Karl Marx, praxis. And you cannot only believe, you have to do something. You cannot only, Lord, I love you, you have to say, I love my brother. Okay?
St. James.
Huh?
St. James. St. James in his letter, if your faith without doing is a dead faith. St. James in his letter.
Okay. But in fact, we listen to Francis, he says that continually. His message is that. Prayer is good, but we have to do something. Don't stay only in the monastery, go to the poor. And he did that, what he did in Rome recently. He opened showers and laundry for the homeless. He opened a barbershop for the homeless. So the homeless can take their dignity, have new clothes, new appearance, so they will not be despised by the society, by the people. That is concrete. He went to the station by night to talk with the homeless, to take care of them, to offer them a coffee, a tea, something to eat. So the poor are, that's interesting, the messengers of God to test our justice and our charity and to save us by our works. Father Menard used to say, the rich who help us in our, for example, seminary here, they should thank you, they should thank us, because we gave them the opportunity to practice charity. It's not us to say thank you, it's they should say thank you to us. It is exactly the message of Ozanam here. They are the messenger to test our justice and charity. So Ozanam tried to reconcile the church and the best figure of the modern man. What is interesting in Ozanam? contrary to other intellectuals of his time, what they did, they abandoned the church. They say, if you don't change, we don't go no more with you. Many did that. They put the church aside. But he stayed in the church. You know, when we want to transform the church, it's not to go out, it is to stay in. The great reformateur of orders in the church, they did not abandon their community. They stayed in their community and they transformed the community from within. It is easy to criticize the church and we abandon her alone. That is, I think it is a good thing, a remarkable reaction of Ozanam at that time. And what is the modern age? The liberty and democracy. Well, when we say that to Americans, liberty and democracy, it seems so obvious. Go 200 years before. Democracy. We are just coming from French Revolution. In many countries, there is no democracy. Everything is controlled by the emperor, by the Kaiser, by that. So, what is something for us obvious is not obvious for them. Even today, some countries, they cannot live in democracy. You know, when I see some country, I know, they vote for the president 95, 98%. That is a strong majority. Gabon, the president of Gabon, Omar Bongo, he said to the people, vote for me 102%. That, you know. And democracy and liberty. Liberty for us is something, we are born in that climate of liberty. At that time, it was not obvious. It was a kind of liberty for the poor. It was a domination by the rich, domination by the political system somewhere, etc. So the idea of liberty and democracy is very recent in the history of the world, very recent. What is 200 years in comparison of 3 million years? A man exists about 3 million years, and democracy are installed about only 200 years. Make the calculation. It is very recent, and not everywhere, not every country, not every nation is democratic and enjoy the same freedom as we enjoy here in this country. Okay. So the message, four idea. First idea, charity must be extended to non-Catholic and other countries. That is something very new. Before, we work for Catholic. You are not Catholic, just too bad. Work for Catholic. No, we have to work for everyone. Why he said that? Because the worker, the majority of the workers, had abandoned the church. So we have to work for the worker even if they detest the church. They hate the church, we must work for them, help them. You know? And secondly, not to stop only to France. And we have to practice charity and justice everywhere. So that is something new in the mentality. Secondly, the Roman Catholics must play a part in the evolution of the democratic state. The reaction of Catholics at that time, at the beginning of the 19th century, was to go back and to stay quiet and to observe, not to commit. So what was the consequence of that? Except some Catholics like Lacordaire, they went into politics. The majority were passive, and who took the decision? The enemy of the church. So we have the consequence of that as the total separation, the spoliation of the good of the religious in 1903, 1905 in France. You know, it's important. One of the message today, this morning, from Ozanam and from Mounier is commitment. Commitment. We can, and the Pope says exactly the same thing. Go to the peripheries. Commit yourself. We are in a big company, the Catholic Church. I told that to you maybe. I spoke about the principle of Barreto. I mean, in every company, only 20% of the people accomplish the work of 80%. I did that.
Yes.
And Catholic, how much? 7.3%. That means 7.3% they make that big company function. The other are passive. And that is the plague, is the sickness of Catholic. They are not committed. It is exactly what you will see. Mounier, we fight. Awake, awake, awake. Do something, commit yourself to, even to politics. He proposes social reform opposing abuses of economic liberalism and socialism. So he was critical for socialism, he was critical for liberalism. And finally, he taught the Roman Catholic social doctrine before Leo XIII. He is really a precursor of the social teaching of the Church. If I was Pope, I will make him doctor of the Church. I will make him doctor of the Church. Because he's one of the first to express systematically the social teaching of the Church. You know, they did that for Saint Catherine of Siena, no? Your sister. They did that for Saint Teresa of Lisieux. And I think they should do that for Hosanna. I would not surprise maybe in 100 years he will be a doctor of the Church. Because his teaching is the precursor of the teaching of the society of the Church. Okay? So a remark. He stressed the necessity of the commitment to lay people. In Italy, there was a priest at that time, Saint Vincent Pallotti. Saint Vincent Pallotti is a priest I discovered when I was in Africa because I worked with Pallottine priests. And I like his life because he was a priest in a parish and he had the intuition that we cannot convert the people, attend the people without lay people. He said it is the lay people who will evangelize the Church. So because of that, many priests did not like him. And he founded a society, SAEC, Society of the Apostolic Action, Catholic. And when he died, he had only 35 priests and 3,000 lay people committed to that, to this big congregation. But the intuition was that it was at the time of Pius IX, and Pius IX sustained Saint Pallotti. You know, those people that say Saint Pallotti, Hosanna, they should be known because they are the initiator of the importance of the lay people in the Church. In fact, Vatican II, what they did. Before, the definition of the Church was like that. Huh? No, was like that. The Pope, I remember the catechism, first year, preparing my first communion. What is the Church? The Church is the Pope, the Bishop, the priest, and the lay people. Today we say, what is the Church? It is the people of God. And at their service, you have priest, you have deacon, you have bishop, and you have the Pope. They are the service of the lay people. Now, let us go to Mounier. Bon. Jean-Paul II was a personalist, you know. Jean-Paul II, his philosophy is a personalist philosophy. We can see that in the theology of the body. He was a teacher of philosophy. Yeah. Interesting. They are not numerous. The teacher of philosophy who became Pope. Now we have a teacher of chemistry, he's a Pope. and Jean-Paul II was a teacher of philosophy. He became Pope. Most of the time they are theologians. Anyway, his philosophy was inspired by, in Poland, and by a Jew we call Buber. Buber was a personalist. And John Paul II, when he went to Rome, he discovered, he knew French, he discovered Mounier. He discovered, for example, look at the Solidarność, Solidarity, the movement who was the cause of the falling of the communist regime. In fact, what was that? It was the commitment of the lay people. It is not the Pope who went in front of the government with his crucifix and said, hey, no, it was Valencia, it was the worker, and they went and they obtained freedom. You know? So that, I insist on that because the transformation of the world was made by you. We are the Church. Those who are lay people, they are the Church. Sometimes we think the Church as the priest with the beautiful surplice, no? The Church is the mother in his kitchen preparing good pie or washing the clothes. That's in the Church. The church, it is where there is a Christian living with faith and love, and taking care of the others. The model of commitment, social commitment, you know, who is? It's your mother. Your mother is a model of social commitment, no? How many years she worked to feed you, to take care of you? Is that a commitment, that? Marriage is a commitment. Because it is a commitment today, many don't want to enter marriage. Because it's a great commitment. You know, when you marry, you accept to have children. And to have a child is not to have a dog. It's not to have a cat. It's quite different. The responsibility for a child is huge. That is a commitment also. Huh? So when you speak about commitment, don't speak only about the president of a country, or about the president of a big company, or labor union. You know, we make the sea, the ocean, with little drops. Huh? Little drops. Okay. So I go to Emmanuel Mounier. Idea of personalism of human person whose responsibility to take an active role in history. Active role. Here, Mounier opposed Karl Marx. You remember, history for Karl Marx is made by economy. Man has no responsibility. He's only the puppet of economy. He said no. Every person makes the history. You make the history. The world is not the same, the history is not the world when you were born. It is the reason why it is so important to celebrate your birthday. You were a gift to the society, to the church. Think about that. Huh? You are a gift. You are given to help, to love, to serve. Okay? In fact, the children are the future. No? I am the past. You are the present. Children are the future. I am the past. I am realistic. Huh? I don't think I will teach it for 25 more years. That commitment, huh? That is the central idea. Man can change history. Charles de Gaulle, Adenauer, Schumann changed history. Napoleon changed history. Edward VIII changed history. In good or bad, they changed history. Man influence is not only economy and matter. So, continue. So, philosophy of commitment that is inseparable from a philosophy of absolute and the transcendence of the human person. The first reality in personalism, personalism is the human person, the human person. But that attached to that reality of the human person is a duty. The duty to defend that human person, to defend the right of that human person. If I have conscious the value of the human person, or the right of the human person, for example, the right of a worker to have a good salary, I will try to do something to help him to have that, to have justice, etc. The personalism of the Catholic worker, well, why I speak about that? You know, in the United States, there was echo on that. And that echo is the Catholic worker, and the founder and the director of that was Dorothy Day. Dorothy Day. Well, Americans, they know her. But Vietnamese, you have to know her. And Dorothy Day. And you have some pages about that in the document. She was not a saint at all. She did almost all the bad things we can do. She aborted, she divorced, she was a communist, and finally she discovered Jesus Christ and personalism. And now she commits her life to social justice. So that is called the Catholic worker. The Catholic worker. So it is a new vision, a new way of life. In fact, the Catholic worker, why we speak about that? Because it is an effort to realize the third way. Yeah. To realize the third way. A society based on solidarity and subsidiarity and the respect of the human person. The three main ideas. Solidarity, like communism. Subsidiarity, respect of freedom. But all that centered on the human person. So they give a new way of life a way to live the gospel in the Catholic faith. In fact, that movement, the Catholic worker, is not only purely social. It is also spiritual, like Saint Vincent de Paul Society. Saint Vincent de Paul Society, they don't go only to give money to the poor. They have also a spiritual life, very strong spiritual life. I can speak about that. My father was, the majority of his life, in Saint Vincent de Paul Society. He was committed, but he had a very strong spirituality, like the Lake of Columbus. Sometimes the Lake of Columbus, they are in that direction. The Lake of Columbus, in fact, they are in the same line as the Catholic worker. It is an institution, at the same time capitalist, but also communist, socialist, to defend the widow, and defend the poor. All that centralized on the human person, but it's not only social, it is also spiritual. And Mr. Mounier will insist on that. He can say we cannot make a real revolution of love, of justice, if we don't have some interior life. That maybe is the big error sometimes. The Christians, they want to do something, but they are not animated. And what happened when they fail, they are discouraged, and they left. Okay? They abandoned their project. So a model for communitarian. The Catholic worker, they try to live in community. Communitarian. Solidarity. Solidarity together. There is no poor, there is no rich. They put on the end. In fact, maybe you would say it's a utopia. That utopia was a reality in many places in the United States, in Canada. It is not impossible to live that. And it is the ideal the Church proposes. The Church proposes a third way based on those two important realities in any society. I cannot live in society without being solidaire, united with others for the common good, and at the same time enjoying also freedom, because if there is no freedom and no human person. But all that in the respect of the human person. And a non-violent revolution. Non-violent. You see, Doro today, I think she was arrested maybe 20 times by the police when she was manifested against the war in Vietnam. So at the end, the policemen, they were afraid to see her. Because they did not want, every time she was put in jail, she was in the newspaper, you know. So it's interesting, they read her life, her life. How the grace can transform a person. And now, you know, our cause of canonization is introduced in Rome. Is that impossible? She becomes Saint Dorothy Day. So the inspirator, Peter Morin. Peter Morin was a former Christian brother from France. He came and he discovered the writing of Mounier, especially the manifesto, the manifesto of Mounier. And he translated the text of Mounier into English with the help of Benedictine, St. John Abbey. And it is because of that that Doro today discovered personalism. So Peter Morin was an important role in her life, in the life of the Catholic worker. Okay? Now I go just after that. Peter Morin introduced, okay, yes, but Peter Morin considers Saint Francis of Assisi as the great personalist. For Peter Morin, for the Catholic worker, the model of personalist, the one who respects the person, the one who is solidaire with others, the one who respects the freedom of others, is Saint Francis of Assisi. Well, you can choose another model if you want, but it's true. That is the fact. Okay? According to Morin, Mounier brought together the best personalist idea from the history and theology of the Church on the 20th century. Personalism comes from a movement of revitalization in France. Between the two wars, between 1919 or 1918 up to 1939, there was a real renewal of Catholic faith among the intellectuals in France. Not among the worker, among the intellectuals. Many intellectuals become Catholic and they created a movement. And that movement was organized by Peter Morin, and they created a magazine, a periodical called Esprit, Spirit, Esprit. And that continued to function. In that, it is not only for Catholic, it is for everyone who want to reflect on social problem at the light of the respect of the human person and the doctrine of the church. Okay? So we have a series here. So creation, periodical, I spoke about that. So in fact, what is the occasion of the creation of that movement? What provoked Mounier to think about the social problem? It was the crisis of 1929. I don't know if you saw some movie, some document about that crisis. It was horrible. Horrible. Million and million and million of workers lost their job and have nothing to eat. I saw recently, on PBS, they presented a whole movie of that time. And we see in New York, New York, you don't see beautiful person, no? You see all those poor workers with their family lining hours and hours to have something to eat. That is a reality. Live here. We must know that. You know, we must know that sometimes capitalism can provoke big problem. 2008 is the same thing. The difference in 2008, the government invests to save the situation. You know? Next page. So Esprit grew out of conferences, discussion about the spirituality and faith in relation to the analysis of social problems. Here you have three words. Spirituality, that means to work for social justice, you must have a spiritual life. Secondly, to be a man of faith, and a woman of faith. But it's not enough. We must study systematically the society. And that reminds Marx. You want to educate, Stalin, you want to educate the people. And what is the way to educate them? It's sociology. To know the society. To know the real problem. Not to hide them, but to face them. That is, we have in France, we call the Semaine Sociale, Social Week of France. Every 2 years they meet and they discuss. And those who go there, they are not, they are the teacher of university, minister, you know, they are the intellectual, because they are those who take decision. They take decision. It's the same for Davos in Switzerland. Every year at Davos in Switzerland, the richest people, they meet together to become richer. That's the difference, okay? To save their interest. So it was a movement of lay people before Vatican II. And it was in the line of a Catholic action proposed by Pius XI. So it's interesting, those people are precursor. They don't wait, the church says something, they are already working at the light of the gospel. They wanted to make a program of great scale. The crisis 1929 is more than a simple political crisis, and even then a profound economic crisis. What is that crisis of 1929? It is a capitalistic in structure, that means the cause was the structure of the capitalism. Liberal in ideology, no control, absolute freedom. And bourgeois in his ethic. That means the comfort of the class, the possessing class, and to defend the interest. Because one of the, I will not say a principle, but sometimes we say, when the bourgeois, when the rich are happy, the society is happy. But even if the poor are not happy, the society is happy. Why? Because the bourgeois, because the rich control the politics. Look at the election, will take place in a long time, and not they already begin to fight. And what they have to do first, before talking, they have to make money, to collect money, you know, to prepare. So the bourgeois control. Not only in the United States, everywhere. You know, we have a poor worker Can you say that poor worker control, like Bill Gates or like Mr. Buffett or like another billionaire? So, of course, sometimes, you know, they say, oh, the miracle, American miracle. Okay, someone arriving with nothing, and after 50 years, they are millionaire. But how many are able to say that among all the immigrants they arrived 50 years ago? So we present always as a model those who have the excessive success. But the majority, where it is. Okay. So it is the crisis of meaning and truth. Crisis of meaning and truth. What is the reality? It is money. Is it money or is it the human person? The question is there. Is it the interest of someone or is it the respect of the human person? Okay? And we say respect of the human person is not only not to kill the person, it's to give the person a decent life, to be able to have children, to marry, etc. So a just wage. And the question they ask you, what is a just wage? It is a family wage. A just wage is a family wage. Even those who are bachelors, they have a right to have a family wage. Why? Because they are called to create a family. Okay? So two encyclicals were published at the end of the 19th century, Rerum Novarum by Leo XIII, 1891, and 40 years after by Pius the IX, the 11th, Quadragesimo, 40 years, Quadragesimo, 40 years. But you know, look at the number of, from the year the beginning of the 19th century, up to the end, how many encyclical the Pope wrote about social justice? One, and only at the end. And after that, up to the middle of the century, only one. So during 150 years, only two social encyclicals. But now, with John the 23rd, two encyclicals, social encyclical, I say, Mater et Magistrat, et Pacem in Terris, Paul VI, Populorum Progressio, and after that, John Paul II, three major encyclicals. In few years, the Church say, hey, we have to take care of the social problem. The Catholic Church, the faith is not reduced to prayer, to liturgy. It's sacrament. It is also a reality we should take in account. It is social ethic. Okay? In the document of Rome, in 19, with Pastores d'Abou-Vobis, they said social ethics should be taught in every seminary. I have completed mission. Because it's important. Who will awake the conscience of the Christian? Okay. Sometimes it is the lay people. Ozanam awaken, Mounier awaken. But now John Paul II, John the 23rd, and now they say, and now Pope now, and even Benedict XVI, they wrote a very beautiful encyclical on social ethics and so on. So it's interesting to see 150 years, two documents. Now in 50 years, about 8-9 documents. And you have the document of the Vatican II, Gaudium et Spes. Okay? So the Catholic revival was encouraged by two encyclicals. The personalism of the Catholic worker began on December 8, 1933. In fact, the revue Esprit, magazine Esprit, was published in 1932. So there is a communication that is interesting because it is on both sides of the ocean. At that time, there was no internet. So that means that the writing of Mounier, the idea of Mounier, they pass over the ocean and begin to penetrate in the conscience of many Catholics here in the United States. Even the bishop wrote a beautiful social letter in 1983, I think. Do you know your bishop wrote letters, social letters? Discover, because they were aware of some injustice in capitalism, and they wrote. For example, here, 1986, No. Economic justice for all. Catholic social teaching and the U.S. economy. Pastoral letter of the United States bishops. That is for you, American. I don't speak about Vietnamese. I speak about American. No, but we have to know that. There is a real, people take conscience of the responsibility we have in regard of social justice. Okay, so Morin read Esprit was influenced by Mounier, and by Mounier he influenced Dorothy Day, and Dorothy Day influenced millions of Catholics. And there was a Catholic worker, he was sold 5 cents, and even today he is sold 5 cents. No, they don't print that for money, they print that to make the people know that. But unfortunately, Catholic worker for many is a socialist movement. And a socialist movement is a communist movement for many. Okay? Because every socialist is not communist. Every communist is socialist, okay, and not the other side. The clarification of thought comes from Mounier. So another important thing here, the ideas are important. Marx wrote a book, Communist Manifesto. The ideas are important, but be careful. Did Marx saw in his own life the fruit of his writing? No. It is only 50 years after. So maybe Mounier and Dorothy Day, they will never see on their life the fruit. Maybe in 60 years, one of the years, somebody will take that inspired to do something as a politician. It's not impossible. No? That happened in the past, can happen now, in the future. The emphasis is given on the personal responsibility in history. That means every person is responsible for social justice. For example, every person must pay his taxes. Every person must respect the property of others. In fact, respecting the Ten Commandments, respecting the law is a minimum. But we have to do more than that. We have to share. We have to organize. Don't forget the Chinese proverb. If we give money to a fish to a man, we feed him for 1 day. If we teach him how to fish, we feed him for the rest of his life. It's the reason why the Catholic Church around the centuries have schools to prepare people to take their own responsibility, to be able to assure their survival by themselves. Okay. And at the bottom of page 3, that was applied to daily worker of mercy, bringing together two things. We can call that evangelical praxis, Marx praxis. That means we cannot separate theory and action. So prayer, okay, prayer, faith, but also charity and justice. They are inseparable. They are the two ends of the Christian. Two ends, prayer, and if you have only one end, you are not complete. Next page. Morin and Dorothy Day and the Catholic worker, they call themselves radical. Well, the word radical comes Latin, radix, root. That means they want to go to the root of the gospel. And when you will read, I hope you will read the text, maybe with Dr. Cynthia Toulon in theology, the role of Santissimo Sanus, for example. All the encyclical of John Paul II, they begin by a study of the Bible. The root of social justice is not in Karl Marx, is not in Mounier, is not in Hegel, it is in the Bible, in the Gospel. And that is for a Christian. No? So 4 pillars. First pillar, the voluntary poverty of Saint Francis Xavier, Assisi. That means a Christian is not allowed to accumulate. We can be rich, but not to keep our money only for us. The philosophy and theology of work of Saint Benedict, the practice of works of mercy of Saint Vincent de Paul, and the intellectual studies of Saint Dominic. Interesting. It's not enough to do action, we must be formed intellectually to do action. And that is the theory of Mounier. That theory was taken by Dorothy Day. And in the Catholic worker, they have time every week to study the gospel, to apply the gospel at their concrete life. Huh? Yeah. Now, to end that part, I have 14 considerations. So I will give that one by one. First, that revolution proposed by Mounier, by Dorothy Day, by the church also, is not violent. It's a revolution of love. What changed the world? You know, look at the history of the church. At the beginning, when Jesus died, after his death, there was only a few Christians. And without army, without money, they conquered the whole Roman Empire. How they can do that? Because they love. That is a good example of the revolution of love. Spartacus made a revolution to free the slave. He was crushed. But the Christian, little by little, they transformed the world by their love. See how they love one another. That is, think about that. The Roman Empire at that time was huge. And the Christian, without gun, without arrow, without horses, they conquer all that. Are you aware of that? That is the perfect example of the revolution made by love. And the principle of that love your enemy. Huh? Pray for those who make you suffer. Not easy. Okay, now we should know the history. For me, it's a proof that the divinity of the church. How is it possible a little group, 12 men, not educated, huh? Well, they have St. Paul after he was educated, but they were not educated, they were fishermen, and those men conquered the whole world at the time, and Roman Empire. You look at the map, it's huge. In 300 and 400 years. That is the same. We can change the world through a revolution of love. It is a theory of Dorothy Day. And our founder, Ferdinand, who today is dead, huh? He said the same, huh? The revolution of love. If we want to change people, we must love them. We don't change people with a gun. We change people when we love them. Huh? First, a critical of capitalism, the evil of speculation and usury, greed, capital disconnected from labor, alienation, and liberal individualism. The three plagues of capitalism, three plagues. Criticism of communism and fascism. You remember, it was written at the time of Hitler in Germany and Mussolini in Italy. Fascism. Huh? So the pure race, those who are right and the other, we have to be eliminated. The Jews, the Gypsy, all those people, they have to be eliminated. And those who oppose, you know, you should know that 3,000 priests, at least, maybe more than that, in Germany were killed by Hitler. 3,000, because they oppose the regime. And during, from 36, 37, little by little, they disappear. Father called me, you know. Huh? A proposition for a personalist economy. So necessity to lay aside greed and materialism, the plague, the greed. If we can eliminate greed. Saint James, he said, the cause of all problems in society is greed. And you have that in is the reason why many Protestants, they don't like Saint James. Because I'm sure on Wall Street they don't read St. James. And St. Luke about the Beatitude. Bless the rich and woe. No, bless the poor and woe the rich. St. Luke is very tough. Very dur, very, very. Okay. The fourth one, so la nécessité be en harmonie avec le béatitude. Poverty is to contempt for material attachment. It is not the suppression of material thing. We have to possess, and that is the teaching of the church. Property, private property, is a right established on our nature. So it is the teaching of the church. But the teaching of the gospel and the church, it is, don't make money the end of your life. I have my brother-in-law, he was working for the Caisse Populaire, you know, the popular bank, and he was in charge of to place the money of the people. So some people, 85 years old, come to him and say, Mr. Cavalier, I want to put my money in good place. And my brother-in-law say, for 1 year. Oh, no, not for 1 year, for 5 years. You know, they are attached, they want to produce, they will die. Nobody will use that. You know, it is an attachment. Every day, and I think it is on the Channel 20, Fox News, something, they have greed, American greed. American greed. How the desire to possess lead people to destroy the life and the family of others. And a good example of that is Mr. Madoff. You remember Mr. Madoff? Huh? In 2008. He ruined his own family. He ruined his own family to make money, to enjoy, and he forgot that he was destroying even, not only other people, even his own family. Greed has no limit. It's like alcoholism. A drunkard is always thirsty. It's funny, he's always thirsty. Never satisfied. No? I continue. So that is a big problem. The control of money as a tool, not as an end. I told you in my country, in 1960s, there were huge billboard. It was written, s'instruire, c'est s'enrichir. To become learned is to become rich. That means they reduce learning to money. The ideal of learning is not to know the truth, is to make money, to have a good water. The mind is not is big, but it's empty. That is, and you have to meet those people. And not only the rich are greedy, even somebody who are not very rich, they don't want to share, etc. Okay? Poverty is a desire for simplicity. In fact, to be poor is not to be miserable, it's to be simple. To be satisfied with something modest, you know. It's not to be deprived from food, no. If you have St. Thomas, I say, a decent family. Comfort is necessary to practice virtue. When you live in a very dire, difficult situation, it is difficult to practice virtue. For example, it is difficult to practice the virtue of patience, or the virtue of hope, etc. Okay. Number 4, the biggest problem for capitalism is the primacy of economic over history, over the life of the people. Now you have labor union, they defend the workers to have, for example, clean air in the mines. But before there was no way to clean the air. What happened to the worker at the age of 35? They were dead because their lung was filled with coal, you know. So that is the labor union. They say, hey, clean the air. Huh? It is necessary. Okay. Life over community, over living. One faith. The main form, remember, the pure capitalism does not accept the intervention of faith. You can have faith, no problem, but not in economy. In economy, there is no faith. So on the week, I go to Wall Street, and on Sunday, I go to the temple. I say, Hallelujah. I give to the collection of the pastor, my conscience is quiet. But during the week, no religion in my business. Next paragraph, content of the worker. Well, that changed. You know what changed that situation? It is the labor union. In fact, the church push, favor the labor union. Of course, labor union can exaggerate, and sometimes they exaggerate, and they are manipulated by the mafia or by some interest, and that is a fact. We cannot be, in Canada, we have that. We have a long trial now for many years about that subject. The company are manipulated and corrupted by it. So profit is in itself is not evil. A profit is good. Profit is necessary. If there is no profit, what do you do? You have to have profit. Otherwise, suppose what you produce give exactly what you use. And the carpenter he produced this desk. So you pay him only the price of the wood. Is it okay? No, you have to pay more because he works, because he has a family, etc. To feed. So the profit is necessary, but it must be controlled, and it must be also spread. For example, in the company, every 4 years or 3 years, the labor union have to renew the contract. So what they do, they go to the budget and they say, hey, you made $32 billion of benefit. Oh, we want to share that. Who produced the 32 billion? Our worker. So we ask you to hire our salary, because it's a right for the worker to share in the benefit. The profit is a good thing. The interest is a good thing. And then a CN defended that. Okay? But it must not be the goal, the end. Okay? Well, the problem in capitalism, in fact, it is the kind of determinism. Everything is controlled mathematically, and scientifically by the economy. There must be no intervention of the state or of the church or the labor union. We must let the thing go without control. Now, what happened in 2008? We see what happened. Number 7, the 20th century crisis is not only economic, it is a spiritual. If we take off from economy or the spiritual value of justice, for example, of charity, of respect of the human person, it is immoral. We cannot work in economy without taking care of the human person. The first beneficiary of economy is not the capitalist, is not the company, it's not the government, it's the human person, the citizen. But that's the problem. You see, we say politics is a fight, a struggle. It will be always a fight. If you enter in politics, prepare to fight. Because it is always a fight against the interest of someone. They want their interest on their side, and you have to say, oh, no, share with others, etc. Okay? So, spiritual, why company they go now, and they close their industry in the United States and they go to Bangladesh. Instead of paying $10, $6, they pay 25 cents an hour. Do they respect the worker here? I met recently a worker, 52 years old, and I got a specialist. His company closed, and now it is impossible for him to find a job at this level. Of course, he can go in a restaurant, serve people, but if you are an engineer, if you are a specialist, that is a real problem. Because we don't take care always, we take care more of the benefit of the sharer. We must give to the sharer more money, and we forget the one who should share the first, and the one who should share the first is the worker. Because who produces the richness of the rich? It is not their money. The money by themselves cannot. It is the worker and the consumer, both. Yes.
Father, but the utilitarian people, they're going to say, well, we provide like 500 jobs over there instead of just 10 jobs over here. We provide more, justice in the sense that other countries should have. That how we respond to them,
Globalization is a two-edged sword.
Well,
And we studied that in 3 weeks. Huh? Globalization has positive aspect. It has also a very negative aspect. Okay? So for the moment, I don't want to discuss. But the problem is there. Who is the first reality in economy? Is it the money or is it the person? The person as a worker and the person as a consumer. Because the consumer, it must be well served. Huh? We must give him a good service. Okay, the commitment of the word for a Christian. Commitment. That is a theme, central theme for Mooney. Commitment. 10. Social aspect of sin. And John Paul II speaks about that. Vatican II speaks about that. The social sin. And sometimes we are solidaire on the social sin. How we can change that? Okay? The definition of personalism, we have that here. No? Any doctrine or any civilization that affirms the primacy of the human person. And number 13, a constant menace of personalism is individualism. A person and an individual is not the same. An individual is centered on himself. A person is centered on other. Why? Because a person is intelligent and free. And because I am intelligent, I have to communicate with others. Because I have a will, I must love others. In fact, a person is essentially open to others, contrary to individualism. Okay. Number 13, Mooney opposed the global market. That means the problem now, we say that it is who controls the economy. When the economy is in the country, the government can control that. But when the company goes everywhere in the world, who can control that? Mounier criticized the doctrine of self-interest. You can read that. Dorothy Day and Mounier. So Dorothy Day published an article on Mounier about the Spanish War, etc. So Dorothy Day was, she was not approving 100% capitalism. Is the reason why she had a lot of enemies. She was aware of the injustice, and as a journalist, she wrote articles. She participated in the street against many injustices. Finally, the last one, the influence of Mounier in Belgium, in Spain, in France, etc. So, I don't want to convert you to Mounier, it's not the gospel. But Mounier, in fact, it is the one in France, in the United States, who proposed the third way. Weber is not a Catholic, he cannot propose the third way of the church, but Weber was centered on the human person. And the first Kant, K-A-N-T, Kant. Kant was the first to say the human person is not an object. Kant is a precursor of the respect of the human person. Because I respect you, I invite you to take a recreation.